What's good with the fight fans, man? It's Kijana back with a recap video of today's fights. Fucking crazy fucking card, man. It was insane. Most of these fights were, I don't know, they were really good. It's probably one of the best cards that I've seen in a while. Mostly finishes. If you picked underdogs for this card, mainly underdogs, I think there was like 8 out of the 11 fights underdogs ended up winning. 2 of the underdogs definitely, in my own opinion, shouldn't have won, but I'm gonna go through all of these fights and break them down real quick, and give you my opinion on them. So the first fight for the prelim, that Diana Belbita versus Hannah Goldie, it was actually pretty entertaining. I wasn't expecting it to be as entertaining as it was. Belbita she came out with pressure, man. It was pressure. She was very relentless. She was on a 2-fight losing streak, and she probably needed this win to keep her career in the UFC. So hats off to her. Hannah Goldie, she was actually pretty impressive too. I feel like she's too muscular. And you see a lot of these muscular fighters, they just tend to gas out. Even though Goldie still seemed like she had a decent amount of cardio, and she was the favorite in this one. Belbita was the underdog. So if you picked Belbita as an underdog pick, that was a great pick, honestly, because she looked really good. She did get kicked with the high kick a lot, I think 5 or 6 times in the fight. So whoever she fights next, hopefully she improves on that and she doesn't fight a kickboxer, because if she does, she's probably going to get KO'd. You heard it here first. So if she fights somebody that's kickboxer and she ends up getting KO'd, then there's the prediction for that one. Excuse me. The next fight was Sijara Eubanks versus Elise Reed. It went exactly how I thought it was going to go. I didn't really watch too much tape of Elise Reed. I knew that she was 4-0 going into the UFC, making her debut. She had 2 KO wins and 2 decision losses. Sijara, she needed to get this win. I don't feel like she would have been cut, because she is a pretty tough fighter and she's entertaining to watch. And most of the losses that she has are usually split decision losses, so it's not too bad. And she comes out, dude. She brings it in all of her fights. She improves. You see her improvement in every single one of her fights. And she just fucking dominated Reed. Like, it wasn't even a fight. It was just pure domination. And yeah, so if you pick Sijara, that was another great pick. I think I went 5 for 6 for my prelims. The next fight, Julio Arce versus Andre Ewell. I picked Julio Arce. I ended up picking fucking Andre Ewell in my DraftKings lineup, and he screwed me over. He fucking screwed me over, dude. For a plus 170, he wasn't a bad pick for a plus 170, but at the same time, I just feel like he backs up all the time. He reminds me of Tyron Woodley a lot in his style, because just with the backing up part, he backs up in every single one of his fights, and it's like, dude, you're the taller, rangier fighter. You should be putting the pressure on your opponents. You should be making them, like, keeping them at distance and shit. Julio Arce was controlling the entire fight. Andre Ewell has super long arms. He has pretty long legs. I just don't get why he always backs himself into the corner, backs himself into the cages, and the cage, like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah, but Arce had a fucking great performance. He was picking his shots very well. He was timing everything perfectly. He ended up getting the range better than Andre Ewell, and Andre Ewell had a fucking 4 or 5 inch reach advantage. Had a height advantage. So I don't know, man. I ended up picking Andre Ewell in my DraftKings lineup because I felt like he was a good underdog pick to have. I felt like he was at least gonna last. I didn't think he was gonna win the fight, which is why I picked Arce in my parlays and as one of my picks for my videos. But I felt that Ewell would at least go the distance and probably get 30 or 40 fantasy points. He ended up getting like 11 or 12, which was fucking horrible. He ruined all my lineups. So yeah, thanks, Ewell. Fuck, man. The next fight, Mickey Gall versus Jordan Williams. It played out exactly how I pictured it. I figured Mickey Gall was most likely going to submit him, most likely going to rear naked choke him, because I knew that he had mostly rear naked choke wins. And as a plus 150 against somebody who hasn't really proven anything in the UFC, has only had a few fights. I mean, Mickey Gall, yeah, he hasn't had too many great fights in the UFC, but at least he's had more fights in the UFC and more experience. And he was just a great fucking underdog pick to have. He rocked Jordan Williams a few times, and then ended up taking his back and submitting him pretty easily. What he was doing with his submission, with his rear naked choke, was great. How he just kept switching his hands, and then eventually Jordan Williams just couldn't keep up, and then he ended up just kind of, I'm not gonna say giving up, but he couldn't keep up with the hand fight, so he ended up losing that one. Next fight, Nasruddin Imavov versus Ian Heinisch. I went back and forth on who I was going to pick on this one. This was, I put a question mark when I wrote my notes down on this one because I just didn't know if Ian Heinisch was really going to be there, if he was going to be mentally there, physically there. Because when he's on, and when he's off, he's off. And he's super hit or miss. He wins one, he loses one, he wins one, he loses one. He was on a 2 or 3 fight winning streak when he first got into the UFC, which was fucking great. I thought he was going to have a decent career in the UFC, but I think his career is kind of going downhill. I'm not sure what the issue is, but Imavov just looked great. His takedown defense was on point. His jab was great. His hands were quick. His footwork was good. He looked lean. He looked like he had really improved his nutrition and his fucking cardio for this fight, because in his last few fights he looked a little bit more, I'm not going to say fat, but he looked a little bit more flabby in his last few fights, and he gassed out heavy in his last few fights with Phil Hawes and the other guy he fought, I can't remember. But Ian Heinisch, that was one of my picks on here. That was the only pick on my prelim picks that ended up fucking just going totally south. And yeah, man. So if you picked Imavov as a plus 140, that was a great fucking pick. Another underdog that won. So I mean, yeah, we have 3 underdogs so far out of the 5 fights that won. If you did a parlay with all of these fighters, dude, you would have came up huge. The next fight, Punahili Soriano versus Brendan Allen. I picked Brendan Allen as a plus 100 underdog. I just seen a few holes in Soriano's game. I felt like he didn't use the jab enough. I felt like he swings kind of wild. He actually leaves his chin up there in the air as well. But I knew he was powerful. I knew he could clip Allen with something, and I knew that he could possibly win. So this was, like I said in my video, this was a 50-50. It was a 50-50 fight, which pretty much every fight's a 50-50 fight, but at the same time, it's kind of not. We all know certain fighters are more dominant than others, but a fight's a fight. It could go either way. We seen that with with some of the next fights that I'm going to talk about. But Brendan Allen just looked great, dude. He was picking his shots really nice. The body kick was nasty, dude. He was landing it every single time, and Soriano wasn't putting his elbow down. He wasn't dropping his arm, which it makes a lot of sense. I mean, fuck, I probably would keep my arm up as well. So, because if you do 6 or 7 body kicks and he comes up with a high kick and you get clipped, and you're probably going to go to sleep. Brandon Allen just looked really good. I was not expecting him to stand and bang with Soriano. I was expecting him to win the fight, but I was expecting him to get a 3rd round submission or maybe a decision win or something, a UD. But Soriano, man, he has a lot of heart. He's definitely tough. He can definitely take a fucking punch and a kick, because he was getting, I'm not going to say he was getting totally dominated, but he was getting pieced up, dude. He lost every single round, in my own opinion. But Soriano, he's tough, dude, and he'll be back better in his next fight. Depending on who he fights, I'll probably end up picking him in his next fight. Next fight, we're going on to the main card. What I thought about the Adrian Yanez versus Randy Costa. Yanez was a fucking -200 or -225 or some shit. He was a great pick. I thought it was a horrible pick at first when the fights first started. The first round, Randy Costa was just piecing him up with the jab cross, jab cross, jab cross. He was kicking him. He was doing all kinds of fucking shit. Randy Costa was moving around the ring, keeping the range where he needed it to be, and it looked promising for him for the entire fight. For at least 2 rounds, I thought that Randy Costa was going to be able to keep up that pace, but I knew it wasn't going to last. His output was insane. I think he landed like 50 or 60 strikes in the first round, compared to Adrian Yanez's, I don't know, 15 or something like that. It was complete dominance in the first, but once we seen the second come, I had a feeling Yanez was gonna, because towards the end of the first round, Yanez was already picking it up. He was starting to pressure him. Randy Costa couldn't get his kicks off. He couldn't get his range back to where he needed it to be, and I kind of felt like it was turning for the better for me. And he just pieced him up with that fucking combination. The uppercut was nasty. He's a great boxer. I think he just needs to work on his head movement a little bit. And yeah, dude, that guy's gonna be really good in that division, though. I mean, Randy Costa's actually really good as well. I think he just put too much of a pace on the first round. If he would have just controlled that pace, that output a little bit better, he probably would have had a chance to win the fight. But yeah, great fucking fight. That was in my top 3 between Brendan Allen, that one, and Kyler Phillips versus Hyun Piva. Those were my top 3 fights. And of course, the main event was really, really good as well. The next fight, though, Miranda Maverick versus Macy Barber. A complete fucking robbery. I don't agree with the decision at all. I don't know what the fuck the judges were watching or what they were seeing, but they need to do something else about the judging in this. They also need to put, they need to do open scorecards, I feel like they do in boxing, because it'll make fighters fight. It'll make them really fight, because Macy Barber, for the first 2 rounds, she was circling the cage the entire fucking time, barely throwing any strikes. She landed 6 strikes in the first round, or the first round and a half. She landed only 6 strikes. Miranda Maverick was up, I don't know, 40-6 or something like that, some crazy number. I'm not saying Miranda Maverick was having a great performance, because it was a really boring fight. It was probably the most boring fight on the entire card. It was not exciting at all. Macy Barber was an underdog, so if you picked her in your parlay, that was great. I ended up picking her as an underdog in my DraftKings lineups. Whoop-de-doo, cool. I picked her, and I still felt like they robbed Miranda Maverick. I felt like Maverick should have won. They shouldn't have gave it to Macy Barber, and even she looked shocked at the end of the fight. Even though when Daniel Cormier talked to her, she was like, "Oh yeah, I for sure felt like I won." No, dude, you had the look of shock and surprise. In your head, you knew that you lost that fight. Everybody who watched the fight knew that you lost the fight. And yeah, that's I really couldn't believe that they gave it to her, but at the same time, I can believe it, because I'm starting to think that I know most sports are rigged. I never thought I was going to say this about the UFC, but I do feel like there's certain aspects of the UFC that are rigged. I'm not saying this fight in particular was rigged, but I do feel like some judges are paid off. I don't know how. I don't know which fights they're paid off for, but I do feel like there's something fishy with the odds and different kinds of things, and promoting certain fighters and what's better for the company and shit like that. There's definitely some fishy shit going on. Macy Barber is probably better for the UFC, honestly. If she wins, it's better for them. She's they can promote her more than Miranda Maverick right now at the moment. And yeah, Maverick will be back. I think that she looked pretty decent. I feel like she won 2 out of the 3 rounds for sure. And yeah, Barber just didn't show anything. She looked horrible, in my opinion. I feel like she looked bad, dude. She picked it up in the 3rd round. That was cool. But she's just not her old self. Ever since that loss, she's hesitant. She doesn't seem like she wants to really. It seems like she wants to fight, but it doesn't seem like she wants to get hit. So it's like, okay, you want to fight, but you don't want to get hit. This isn't a punching bag. The person in front of you is going to hit back. This isn't like, I don't know, man. I don't get these fighters that want to bounce around the fucking ring the whole time and expect like, oh yeah, I want to hit this person, but then at the same time, I don't want to get hit. Like, no, dude, you're going to take some shots. It doesn't matter how good a defense you have. You're going to take some fucking shots. And if you can't handle that, then you probably shouldn't be fighting. You shouldn't be in the ring. Yeah, that's my opinion on it. Macy Barber lost. That was bullshit. It was a rigged fight. That's what I think. Next fight, Darren Elkins, The Damage versus Derek Minner. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Another underdog win, a plus 130. Someone I passed up, someone that I just counted out completely. And this is the 3rd time that I've picked against Darren Elkins, and he's won every single time against when I pick him. So I don't know what the fuck's going on. Derek Minner looked great in the 1st round. I thought for sure he was going to finish him. He was piecing him up. He cut him open. Darren Elkins, I should have known. Darren Elkins has great cardio. He gets cut open all the time. He's punch drunk. This guy's like, he's 38 years old and he looks like he's 58 because he has so much scar tissue on his face. It's just crazy, dude. I can't believe that he can take that much punishment. I mean, he's going to be hurting in the future. He's got CTE for sure. But they don't call him The Damage for no reason, dude. He has a tattoo on his chest. He definitely lives up to it. He's not the most athletic but he's super exciting to watch, and he's got more heart than most people in the entire UFC, that's for sure. I'll give him that, and more cardio as well. That dude is just relentless. Darren Elkins just gave up on himself. He had no more in the gas. He had nothing else in the gas tank. He gassed himself out in the first round. We see it all the time happen, especially with people with grapplers and submission specialists. We see it happen all the time. Darren Elkins, he completely fucked my parlays. Him and who else was it? I think that was it. I think it was just him and Kyler Phillips that ended up messing my parlays up. But I don't think anything of the Kyler Phillips one, because Kyler won that fight. But yeah, props to Darren Elkins, dude. That guy's a savage. That dude's a fucking savage, man. He's just got more heart than a lot of people. It's crazy to watch. Yeah, but the next fight I want to talk about, one that I'm very fucking disappointed in. Kyler Phillips versus Hyun Piva. It was my most confident pick. This usually happens for my most confident picks. So if I say in any of my next videos in the future that this is my most confident pick, probably go against it, because most likely my most confident pick's probably gonna lose. It seems like it goes that way all the time for me. There's always at least one fighter that loses for me. But actually on the main card predictions, I fucking lost 1, 2, 3, the last 3 fights. Yeah, I picked Darren Elkins, I picked Kyler Phillips, and I picked Corey Sandhagen. Okay, but anyways, Piva should have lost that fight. He was getting fucked up in the first round. I'm not saying that it was a 10-8 round, but I felt like even with Piva outscoring him, I'm not sure how they scored, how they did the scoring, or how they did the strikes, but for some reason in the second and third round, he had more strikes landed. It made no sense to me. I didn't see that. I was watching the fight perfectly. Got every angle of the fight. So I seen Kyler Phillips at least taking 2 of the rounds. He took the first one by far. Possibly even all 3. I don't really know, dude. I just know that Kyler Phillips should have fucking won that shit. He rocked Piva in the first round, fucked him up. He had multiple takedowns, 2 or 3 takedowns in the fight. He was mixing it up. He was controlling the pace. Yeah, he gassed out a little bit more than I expected him to gas out, but he was putting on such a high pace that, I mean, it does not surprise me. Yeah, I felt like Kyler Phillips for sure won the first and most likely the third round. But yeah, I don't know what your guys' thoughts are. I felt like that fight was, I don't know what the fuck, dude. Team Alpha Male, man. Like all these random fucking shit. Like with Macy Barber, that was a weird one. And Hyun Piva was a plus 230, a great underdog pick. But at the same time, it was a horrible underdog pick, because I would have never expected that. Darren Elkins was a good underdog pick. That was actually a good one to pick. Macy Barber was a good underdog pick if she showed up. If she didn't show up, she still lost the fight in my opinion. But that was a good underdog pick for the main card. And then, okay, fuck the Kyler Phillips fight. That shit was a great fight, but it was a horrible decision. I'm going on to the main event. And the TJ Dillashaw is a plus 155 is a great underdog pick. I ended up putting them in a few parlays. I ended up putting them in a few DraftKings lineups. I did a few switch outs with Corey and TJ. I didn't do too well on any of my bets today because, of course, I had Andre Ewell in most of my DraftKings. And, of course, I had Kyler Phillips in most of my parlays. So it was one of each. It was an underdog that lost in my DraftKings lineups, and it was a favorite that lost in my parlays. So I would have came up a good amount, but it just wasn't my day to win. But anyways, Corey Sandhagen, great performance. TJ Dillashaw, great performance. He came back from a 2.5 year layoff, which is insane. Yeah, ring rust doesn't exist. I think that's all mental. I think it's in your head. I do think injuries exist. I think age exists. I think time exists. I think that kind of stuff. And what I mean by that is, like, you might not be the same fighter when you come back that you thought you were before. That kind of shit exists, but I don't think the ring rust thing exists unless you believe it exists and you believe it in your head and you put it there, and then you're like, okay, fuck, I'm gonna be rusty. Okay, well, now you're rusty because you fucking put it in your head. But yeah, TJ, man, that dude's a savage. That guy's good. He has it all. He has the full package. And all these people that are talking about, okay, oh, well, Corey stuffed 89% of his takedowns and this and that. See, come on, man. You gotta be a fucking idiot. You gotta be a retard to think that TJ was trying to go for a takedown every single time. He wasn't going for a takedown every time. He was switching. He was mixing it up, which there's a reason why it's called mixed martial arts. He was mixing the shit up. He was trying to take his back, do different kinds of stuff, knee in his legs, And I'm not even a huge TJ fan. Like, yeah, I respect the dude, and I like some of the fights that I've watched from him. But I'm not a huge TJ fan. I'm actually a Corey Sandhagen fan. But you can't deny that TJ didn't control most of the pace of the fight, other than when Corey Sandhagen was doing good for certain little things that I thought he was doing. Corey Sandhagen actually did really good with certain things, such as yeah, he split him open. I mean, his boxing looked great. His wrestling defense looked really good. I would say out of the 20 takedowns or whatever TJ tried to get, or supposedly tried to get, I would say that 10 of those were probably real takedowns that he was actually going for, and the other 10 probably weren't. They were just to switch it up, to keep him guessing, to do different kinds of shit. And most people just they're in denial. They think that, oh, he stuffed all the takedowns. TJ was wearing more damage. That doesn't mean that he lost the fight. That just means he got cut open. I mean, who cares? He was still in it. He was pushing the pace. I felt like he had better cardio towards the end of the fight. I felt like he was getting the range down better. I for sure thought that it could have went either way. I'm not saying that it was completely TJ or completely Corey. If anything, it could have been a draw. It was such a good fight. I don't really know. That was a hard one to judge. TJ for sure won the first round. Corey Sandhagen split him open real bad. That was a bad cut. I'm surprised that he didn't capitalize. I think he did. I think Corey tried to capitalize on hitting him on that side where he couldn't really see as much, where the blood was going in his eyes. But TJ's just tough. He got clipped with some fucking shit, dude. And he just kept coming. I felt like he closed the distance really well, and Corey couldn't get off the kicks that he wanted. He kept doing he did a few spinning kicks and shit that I felt like weren't really the best time to do those. I felt like the flying knees that he did were great. He mixed it up really good as well. I don't think Corey went to the body enough like he probably should have. I think that Corey Sandhagen needs to incorporate more push kicks, more T kicks, more side kicks. He's got long legs. He's hella tall for the division. I'm not sure why he doesn't do more kicks like that. I know he's more. He uses his knees really well, uses his elbows, and he uses his fists really good. But I think he needs to incorporate a few more things, and I think he needs to incorporate a little bit more ground shit too as well. TJ's got the whole package, man. Yeah, he's older. Yeah, he popped for EPO and all that other shit. But this was a great fight. Yeah, I mean, hats off to that dude too, because you can't knock his performance. If you knock his performance, you're just a hater, like straight up. And I like both these dudes, but yeah, you could have scored it 3-2 Corey, or you could have scored it 3-2 TJ. I'm fine with whoever wins that one, because it was just a great fight. But I do feel like, I don't know. I feel like TJ might have edged him just a little bit, but at the same time, Corey did hurt him with some fucking shit. He hurt him with some shit. So I mean, it could have went either way. I'm not mad at either decision. But yeah, he was a great fucking underdog pick. Yeah, awesome card. Looking forward to doing the next card. Hopefully you guys all enjoyed the fights as well. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, and tell me what your favorite fights. Tell me what your top 3 fights were. Tell me if you think the Corey Sandhagen fight was bullshit, or you think Corey should have won. Let me know why. Shit, drop it. I want to hear what you guys think about the Kyler Phillips and the Macy Barber fight, because those two, I don't know what the judges were watching for those two. Honestly, I don't know what the fuck happened with that. Yeah. All right, I'm out.